Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. Many people think that Social Security is this big bucket of money that you and your employers have paid into, and you just get the bucket of money when you retire. Well, that's not necessarily how it works. The Social Security Act actually was signed by FDR on August 14th of 1935, believe it or not. Taxes were collected for the first time in January of 1937, and the first one-time lump sum payments were made that same month, actually. Regular ongoing monthly benefits started in January of 1940, so not that long afterwards. Well, fast forward to today, and in the predicted financial year of 2025, the federal budget, the biggest item is projected to be Social Security, with 22% of total spending of the federal government is on Social Security. That's followed closely by net interest on our national debt at 14%, healthcare at 13%, Medicare at 13%. This according to the Treasury fiscal data. Now, Social Security Administration projects that the combined retirement and disability trust funds will be depleted by 2035. 2035. So basically almost 100 years exactly from the time that it started. What's going to happen, and this is what they're predicting, is that the funds will be depleted. Now, this means that without action, the program could run out of money by that year. However, even if the trust fund is depleted, Social Security benefits would not be eliminated entirely. They would just simply be reduced to match the revenue from the payroll taxes, which would still be enough to pay out what they're predicting, about 76% of the scheduled benefits. So it would be reduced by about 25%. Now, February of 2005, going back in the Wayback Machine, okay, it was February of 2005. Republican President George W. Bush outlined a major initiative to reform Social Security, which included partial privatization of the system, personal Social Security accounts, and options to permit Americans to divert a portion of the Social Security tax, the FICA portion of that, into secured investments. Now, Bush wasn't my favorite president in the whole world. He wasn't the worst either, but I liked this plan. I even liked it back then. Okay, I can still remember, and that was shot down and not implemented. But if you look back, let's look back a little bit and see what would have happened if that had been put into place, where more of the Social Security had been able to be privatized. Well, since 2005, the S&P 500 has risen approximately 566%. Yeah, which translates to a yearly average return of about 9.82%. So if you consider inflation, okay, so you oftentimes have to factor that in, right? If you consider inflation, the adjusted return is about 7.18% per year. Okay, because if you factor in the inflation, it's just a little over 300%. So since 2005, the Social Security benefits have lost a significant amount of buying power due to inflation, despite the annual cost of living adjustments, the COLA adjustments, right? Specifically, a study by the Senior Citizens League found that Social Security benefits have lost 20% of their value since 2010. Okay, that's 5 years later. Since that point, the Social Security benefits have lost 20% of their value. This translates to a need for an extra $4,440 annually, or $370 a month to maintain the same purchasing power as it had in 2010. Now, in 1970, there were about a little over 2.5 million beneficiaries of Social Security. And by 2020, now, when I say Social Security, this includes the disability, okay? By 2020, the number had increased to 8.15 million. Okay, we go from 2.5 or 2.6 to 8. So that's a lot of people on disability and Social Security. Now, disability is a part of Social Security, okay? Disability provided benefits to nearly 9 million disabled workers in 2013, nearly 6 times the 1.5 million disabled workers who received benefits in 1970. As a share of the number of workers with taxable earnings, disabled insurance, this is the SSDI, has grown from 1.6% in 1970 to nearly 5.5% in 2013. In 2025, this year, almost 12 million disabled Americans under 65 receive benefits from the Social Security Administration through their Social Security disability insurance, the SSDI, and also supplemental security income, or both. Actually, there's many that receive both. The number of people receiving Social Security, SSI, or both in February of this year was over 73 million people. So, as you can see, I've tried, I know it's a lot of numbers. I've tried to lay things out here a little bit for you as we go into what we're looking at with Social Security today. And from a series of articles from the Daily Wire comes this. It says Leland Dudek was an obscure bureaucrat at the Social Security Administration who dedicated his career to stopping fraud. But when he worked with the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, to do just that, he came close to being fired. Quote, at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, my boss called me to tell me I had been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation, is what he wrote on LinkedIn. They want to fire me for cooperating with DOGE. This is a post that's now been deleted, but then a stunning reversal occurred. It was acting Social Security Commissioner Michelle King who was out of a job, and Dudek was reinstated with a big promotion, taking her job leading the massive agency on an interim basis. The Washington Post reported that King exited the agency after refusing to let DOGE access agency data and was replaced by Dudek, the guy who almost got fired for cooperating with DOGE. But it has not been reported that managers at the agency had moved to punish Dudek as he cooperated with the efficiency czars. Now, the LinkedIn post said, quote, I confess, I helped DOGE understand Social Security, the Social Security Administration. I mailed myself publicly accessible documents and explained them to DOGE. I confess, I moved contractor money around to add data science resources to my anti-fraud team. I confess, I asked where the fat was and is in our contracts so we can make the right tough choices. I confess, I bullied agency executives, shared executive contact information, and circumvented the chain of command to connect DOGE with the people who get stuff done. And it continued. He says, everything I have done is in service to our country, our beneficiaries, and our agency. the Social Security Administration and the White House did not return any requests for comments, of course, on this, but a Social Security Administration employee speaking on conditions of anonymity told the Daily Wire that the person who put Dudek on leave was Gina Clemens, a deputy commissioner for analytics, review, and oversight. How'd you like that as a job title? And that she is still actually on the job. Dudek, a career civil servant, is an example of how there are a few fiscal conscious longtime government employees and how the Trump administration and DOGE can maximize their impact by joining forces with people who know where the bodies are buried, so to speak. After publication of this, a spokesman for Senator Mike Lee, he's the Republican from Utah, Billy Gribben, said of it on X, "I hope we see more of this. There are many good civil servants who have been quietly frustrated for years with politics motivated mismanagement, who possess an encyclopedic knowledge of the problems with their agencies. Put them in charge. Hand them scalpels and flamethrowers." But the Social Security Commissioner was traditionally appointed to 6-year terms and would continue on between presidential administrations. But Joe Biden destroyed that precedent when he fired the person who Trump appointed in his first term. Biden's Social Security Commissioner, Martin O'Malley, seemed to view agency employees perhaps even more than taxpayers and beneficiaries as the constituency. He signed a last-minute deal with the employee union in November of 2024. Okay, so obviously, right after the election. Okay, days after the election, granting them telework through the 2029 year. Then resigned days later to run for chair of the Democratic National Committee, leading King to assume the top role on the acting basis. Now, Dudek will serve in that role until Trump's nominee is confirmed by the Senate, which he hasn't quite been yet. But the Social Security Administration is a prime opportunity to use data to find government waste and fraud from illegal immigrants using other people's Social Security numbers to people pretending to be disabled to get benefits. So that's what DOGE is going after here. And guess what? The administration doesn't like it. I mean, the administration within Social Security doesn't like it. Now, another problem within Social Security is the fact that there are judges who, even when they go through things here, the judges overrule them. Here's an example. Dozens of administrative law judges grant disability payments to almost everyone who appears before them, overriding Social Security staff who determined the people were not entitled to payments. One of the Social Security Administration's regional chief administrative law judges, Jennifer M. Horn, who leads the San Francisco hearings office, shocker, ruled in every case she heard last year that the claimant should be granted disability payments. Okay, this goes to what we were talking about as far as disability just skyrocketing. She granted these disability payments, even though in each case, 2 previous examinations had found the claimant should be denied. Okay, Ronald Herman, hearing cases outside of Detroit, greenlit payments in 95% of the almost 1,300 cases he heard. Jan Leventier, hearing cases in Queens and Detroit, approved 94% of the little over 2,100 cases, potentially amounting to hundreds of millions of dollars. Such rulings have steered billions of dollars in payments to people who may not deserve them, adding to the impression that disability is sometimes abused as a kind of a shadow welfare program. Targeting abuse in Social Security's disability program, which has a history of fraud, by the way, provides an opportunity for the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, to cut waste from the non-discriminatory funding that compromises the bulk of the federal budget. Quote, it's all a political bent. This is what a lawyer who represents disability workers at the hearings, speaking on conditions of anonymity, of course, told the Daily Wire. He says, if the judge is a person that says, this is a social contract that we make with people, if the claimant says they're disabled, then they are. If they're a person who believes everyone's a liar and a cheat, then it's single digits. So here's another quote. He said, I don't think there's any real lawyering to it. The game is to get as many hearings as I can because 50% are getting approved no matter what if I just show up, he added. I've had people with cancer not get approved and people with skin rashes get approved. I can't predict it anymore, he said. One Washington, D.C. area administrative law judge who is a white Bernie Sanders supporter was overheard complaining about many of his peers viewed their jobs as a way to steer government checks to minorities regardless of the facts. Social Security staff determined whether someone is entitled to Social Security payments, and claimants can appeal to staff for a redetermination if they are rejected. So if that panel also concludes that they are not disabled, they can appeal again to an administrative law judge. So that's where this comes in. Outcomes in those proceedings largely depend on which judge the applicant gets, of course. And even though one might assume that they would defer to the judge of Social Security experts or something like that, 85 judges overturned Social Security rulings that a person was not disabled more than 80% of the time. Far fewer judges erred on the side of stinginess. Only 16 judges, 16, upheld the staff's determination more than 80% of the time. That's according to last year's data. Now, in all, administrative law judges heard 2.2 million disability cases last year and overturned the non-disabled ruling in 58% of them. In October, 26 administrative law judges hearing 197 cases between them ruled favorably to the disability seeker in every single case. Administrative law judges are not members of the judicial branch, but rather executive branch employees who are represented by a union for judges kind of thing. The Association of Administration Law Judges. Actually, it's very specific. It's called the AALI. I'm sorry, AALJ. The AALJ leaders were among the most activist judges. Its president, Ramprut, is their name, is approved 94% of the cases that she heard in New York. Its secretary, Kimberly Shiro, ranked 49th among the over 1,200 ALJs at these are the judges at 85%, and its treasurer O'Leary overrode staff to approve payments 74% of the time. The AALJ, whose members make at least $185,000 a year, sued DOGE for accessing federal employee records, with Ramprut filing an affidavit that said members of the AALJ and I also fear that that DOGE could use improperly disclosed records to retaliate against us. She did not return, of course, any requests for comment. Of course she wouldn't. And Social Security runs two disability programs, one called Social Security Disability Insurance, what we talked about, the SSDI, and that's for those who have worked in the past and now find themselves unable to, or unable to in some form or fashion, oftentimes. And it pays out roughly $150 billion a year in benefits. The other is called the supplemental security income, and it is for those who have never worked and paid out about $54 billion in 2023. Now, both programs, especially that latter one, have been used as a shadow form of welfare for decades. And in some Appalachian counties, more than a quarter of the population was on disability. In inner cities, unemployed individuals feign mental conditions like depression and things like that to get government checks that last a lot longer than welfare, of course, which is limited to 5 years. You can get this disability for a lot longer than that. And so, hey, you know what? I kind of feel depressed. I find a doctor that says so, and boom, guess what? I get a check. Disability judges with just astronomically high approval ratings in 2024 included this Jennifer Horn, which I talked about, from San Francisco. She approved 100% of the 9 cases. There was a Perez Gomez in Fort Lauderdale, same thing. Michael Brownfield, 95% of 639 cases. That Ronald Herman, he approved 95% of almost 1,300 cases. That Levitier judge in the Queens, Detroit area approved 94%, 94% from Ramprut, and Margot Stone from North Carolina area, 92% of over 2,000 cases. I could go on and on and on. There's at least that many more, all approving in the 90 percentile of those cases. So again, these are people who went to Social Security, and Social Security said, no, you know what? You don't qualify here. Okay, just because you have a headache doesn't mean that you get Social Security disability insurance. And then they appealed that, and the appeal board said, yeah, you're right. You don't get the disability insurance money because your thing doesn't qualify. And so then they sue to these judges. They go to these judges, and the judges at 90 some odd percent say, we're going to overturn that, and then we're going to give them their money. Well, a ruling on whether someone is entitled to disability depends not just on medical facts, as you can see, but also a judge's view of the economy and an individual's potential to adapt. So if a construction worker develops a back problem, for instance, the judge must determine whether there are sedentary jobs available in the United States, and whether he's been capable of getting hired into one of them. Social Security disability is a government program that is separate from workers' compensation, which covers injuries on the job. So we're not talking about that. We're not talking about you get hurt on the job and there's compensation for that. This is an entirely different program. In 2013, then Senator Tom Coburn, the Republican from Oklahoma, he noted that administrative law judge hearings were one-sided affairs where applicants pleaded their case without anyone representing the taxpayer at all. Quote, one simple reform that would make a big difference is including a professional from the SSA to represent the government and ultimately the American taxpayers, of course, in decisions made by the ALJs, these judges, he said. Some claimant attorneys withhold evidence from the judge. And although there is no suggestion that the unusual patterns by the judges are due to fraud, you can't really say it's fraudulent so much, Coburn revealed that high patterns of disability in some rural areas were because of unscrupulous lawyers and medical professionals who, for a fee, would help anyone present as disabled. With at least one lawyer also paying off judges to secure disability determinations. One criminal proceeding documented how how each how much money one judge with a high approval rate steers. In 2017, former administrative law judge David Black Dodery, who heard cases in West Virginia, was sentenced to prison, actually, and ordered to pay restitution of $93 million after he single-handedly doled out more than $500 million in disabled payments by giving favorable rulings in over 3,100 cases in exchange for $609,000 in bribes. The bribes came from a lawyer, Eric Conn, yeah, really, C-O-N-N, who worked with psychologist Alfred Adkins to construct a disability paper mill. So Kahn collected $7 million in legal fees from clients. He filed the county. I'm sorry, he fled the county after pleading guilty in 2018 and was sentenced to prison after being apprehended in Honduras, of all places. A second administrative law judge, Charlie Paul Andreas, fired a whistleblower to conceal the scheme, actually. And about 10% of employees pay their pay is diverted to Social Security's retirement fund, and another 2% to its disability fund. According to the 2024 annual trustee report, Social Security is projected to be depleted of sufficient funding in 8 years, is what we're talking about, and will be unable to pay the full retirement benefits beginning in 2023, as we're looking at it now. That's why this is such a big deal, okay, with these judges, is that they're just giving this money to anybody that comes and has their hands out, and that is part of what's the problem with this program. Now, the DOGE has gone in and done a review of the states where this is happening for the most, and 3 Democratic-led states accounted for the vast majority of unemployment fraud since 2020, according to an initial survey of such fraud by the Department of Government Efficiency. And you can probably guess who they are, right? I mean, if I put up a survey, you'd probably get them. California, New York, and Massachusetts tallied nearly 80% of improper unemployment insurance benefits handed out since 2020. This is an initial review of claims by DOGE, and they found that $382 million in fraudulent payments were given out. The DOGE audit found that quote, 24.5 thousand people over 115 years old, 115, claimed $59 million in benefits. Yeah, 28,000 people between 1 and 5 years old claimed $254 million in benefits, and 9.7 thousand people with birth dates over 15 years in the future claim $69 million in benefits. So if it's not a baby when it's in the mom's womb, but it's collecting benefits, is it a baby? Anyway, in one case, someone with a birthday in 2154 claimed $41,000, according to DOGE. Of those flagged claims, California, New York, and Massachusetts accounted for over $300 million. California, New York, and Massachusetts accounted for most of these improper claims. This is a quote, totaling $305 million in unemployment benefits, according to DOGE. DOGE said that additionally, California accounted for 68% of the unemployment benefits paid to payrollees identified by CBP on the terrorist watch list or with criminal records. White House spokesman Harrison Fields said the revelation is an example of the kind of governance that pushes people to move from deep blue states to such as California and New York and things like that, to Republican-led states such as Texas and Florida. We see a lot of migration going from places like California and New York to places like Texas and Florida. Quote, there's a reason for the mass exodus from Democratic-run states that have mismanaged their economies and driven residents to the nearest Republican-led state. This is what Fields told Fox News. He said, high taxes, poor stewardship of taxpayer dollars, and progressive policies continue to yield negative results, which is why Americans overwhelmingly support the work of DOGE. California, New York, Massachusetts are under solid Democratic control, and Democrats control the governor's office, the state house, and the Senate in each state, while also having the offices of Secretary of State and Attorney General as well. Now, DOGE is spearheading the Trump administration's efforts to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse in federal government, and DOGE analysts have been working with the department to identify where the fraud is. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced $5.1 billion in cuts to Pentagon spending last Thursday that were identified by DOGE, and they're continuing to go through each department and find out where this fraud is. But one of the things that we do know when it comes to the Social Security program is that the Social Security Administration is literally killing thousands of numbers that were assigned to illegal aliens. Yeah, that's what I said. With a Social Security number, illegal aliens can work in the United States and receive a wide range of taxpayer-funded benefits. The Trump administration is trying to take away the incentive for illegal aliens to stay in the United States, of course, and swiftly remove them from the system, treating them as the same way that it would someone who had died, let's say. The Trump administration is putting the Social Security numbers of more than 6,000 illegal aliens into the same database that dead people's numbers go into. This is kind of a novel maneuver that effectively strips the individuals of their numbers and makes them ineligible for benefits. Of those illegal aliens entered into the database for dead people, the White House said that nearly 1,000 were receiving Medicaid benefits, while others were given student loans or collecting unemployment insurance. Yeah, nearly 1,000 were receiving even those type of benefits as well. President Trump promised, of course, mass deportations, and by removing the monetary incentive for illegal aliens to come and stay, we will encourage them to self-deport. That's what White House spokeswoman Elizabeth Huston said. And she also said that he is delivering on his promise he made to the American people. According to the Washington Post, one anonymous White House official claimed that Social Security numbers that were logged into the database had been assigned to illegal aliens with criminal records or ties to terrorist activity. Another 92,000 illegal aliens with criminal convictions are expected to have their Social Security numbers entered into the database. And this is what the official went on to tell the outlet. Some of those affected are aliens who received legitimate Social Security numbers under the Biden administration's temporary work program that have ended, meaning that they have lost their legal status, so they shouldn't have a Social Security number, right? The move comes after Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and acting Social Service Security Commissioner Leland Dudek authorized Social Security to place illegal alien numbers into the death file for national security reasons. The Social Security Administration has seemingly had a lot of trouble reclassifying recipients who are actually dead. Elon Musk's DOGE found that Social Security payments were being sent to people who were 115 years old or older. Social Security numbers belonging to people between the ages of 1 and 5, as we talked about, and even people that aren't even born yet. A DOGE official recently warned that more than 1 million illegal aliens received Medicaid benefits, and that thousands of them are on voter rolls. We covered that here about a week or two ago. Immigration experts have highlighted other ways to compel illegal aliens to self-deport, most notably by passing a national e-verification mandate in an attempt to prevent them from obtaining employment. If implemented, experts say that the law would eliminate a major incentive for illegal immigration and hinder illegal aliens' ability to remain in the United States. So, a lot of things going on. Would love to hear what you think about the Social Security system and what's happening there. You can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. And thank you for listening. This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.